Hello everyone. Today we were going to talk about the globalization and technological advancement. So in here we were going to discuss the advent of mass production, the mechanization of progress, globalizing trade, the shift from industrial age to computer revolution, and the routes to globalization, the challenges, the struggles, the response, and a call for international cooperation. So let's start for the brief introduction first. Globalization has brought about far reaching changes in our lives. This has been driven primarily by the momentous economic progress made by the countries. Technology has played a vital role in speeding up globalization, while globalization itself has been a constant driving force for the newer technology to surface. Thus, it can be said that the globalization and technology have evolved as twin phenomena. So, first, let's discuss the mass production. Mass production is the manufacturing of large quantities of standardized product, often using assembly lines or automation technology. Mass production facilitates the efficient production of a large number of similar products. From the definition itself, sinasabi na mass production, ito yung tumutukoy sa dami at bilis ng ating nagagawa o napoproduce na product. In mass production, mechanization is used to achieve high volume, detailed organization of material flow, careful control of quality, standard, and division of labor. Understanding mass production. Henry Ford, founder of Ford Motor Corporation, developed the assembly line technique of mass production. In 1913, he pioneered the moving assembly line for production of the Ford Model T automobile. So yung assembly line na sinasabi dito, ito yung itong strategy to mapa-increase yung production kasi nga yung assembly line each sa isang factory or sa isang industry, yung paggawa ng product nila is may mga station by the station na kung saan each station has nagpe-perform ng specific test para mapadali yung pag-produce ng product. Ford concept of time and space efficient production has been adopted by most industry, lowering the cost of everyday items. So yung konsepto ng assembly line is na-adapt na ng maraming industry. Dahil dito parang nababawasan yung cost ng everyday items. So, let's talk about the advantage and disadvantage of mass production. First advantage is the high precision. Machine with preset parameters ensure consistent and precise production outcomes. So, if the quality or if the quality of the technology is good, so maganda din yung kakalabasan ng produkto. And second advantage is lower production costs. Automation reduced the need for manual labor, leading to significant cost savings. So, dahil nga sa mass production and mostly ang nagtatrabaho lang dito is technology, parang parang hindi na sila gumagastos to hire the manual labors at nang dahil doon sinusweldohan nila. So, nang dahil nga sa mass production or sa work ng technology is nababawasan yung kanilang manual labor, leading to significant cost savings. Third is the increased efficiency. Producing items in large batches minimize machine setup times and streamlines operation. So, dahil nga sa mass production, yung marami yung na produce ng product ng isang industry or factory. So, fourth is the economies of scale. As production scales up, the cost per unit decreases, making more affordable for consumer. So, kaya dahil nga sa mass production, parang yung product production is tumataas. Dahil doon parang napapabilis or madali yung paggawa ng product at parang lumiliit yung kanilang gastusin kasi nga the technology works sa produktong yon, and dahil doon parang binibenta nila yon ng mas affordable kasi nga unti lang naman yung nagastos nila because of the technology na siya nagtatrabaho. Let's talk about the disadvantage of mass production. First is the environmental impact. Mass production can lead to significant environmental issue including pollution and resource depletion. So, in order to operate the factory or the industry or the technology, kailangan talaga ng energy. And minsan, yung energy na yun is nakaka-emit siya ng mga air na it's not good to our environment. So, meaning, it can lead to the pollution and leading to the environmental impact and health impact. So, when we say, and in terms of resource depletion, syempre, in order to produce a product, kailangan talaga may resources ka dyan. And mostly, the resources is the environment. So, nang dahil nga sa pag-produce nila ng product, syempre, kumukuha sila ng resources sa environment na kung saan nababawasan yung mga resources natin. So, it can lead to environmental impact. The second is reduce employment opportunity. Automation and assembly line may decrease the demand for skilled labor, leading to job displacement. So, nang dahil nga sa technology na yung mga nagtatrabaho, syempre, yung mismong may-ari ng factory, hindi na siya mag-hire ng mga employee. Nang dahil doon, parang yung mga naghahanap ng trabaho is walang hapasukan, that can lead to the increased unemployment rate. So, parang dahil nga sa technology, parang nababawasan na yung opportunity ng tao na makakuha ng trabaho. Kasi nga, the technology is mismo nang nagtatrabaho. Number 3 is the overproduction risk. Large-scale production can result in surplus goods, leading to waste and potential financial losses if demand does not meet supply. So, sinasabi dito na, yes, marami yung mapaproduce mo sa isang factory in terms sa mass production, pero dapat kinoconsider din natin yung demand ng mga tao. So, halimbawa, always ka lang nagpo-produce ng isang product, tapos napaparami yung produce mo doon. Syempre, tapos hindi naman pala gusto ng mga consumer. So, parang, dahil doon, minsan, nasasayang yung mga product mo na nagkakaroon ng financial losses. Number 4 is the quality control challenges. While precision is goal, defect in mass production can lead to large quantities of flawed product if issues are not detected early. So, dapat sa mass production, dapat we can check our product as early as possible. Dapat hindi natin hahayaan na mag-organize ng product na hindi na-check. Dapat ma-detect natin if may siwa talaga. So, yun yung disadvantage ng mass production kasi minsan parang hindi lang nila chine-check yung product if there's something wrong sa produktong iyon. So, dapat as early as possible ma-check yung product para hindi naman siya magkaroon ng epekto sa consumer and also the producer. Let's talk about the mechanization of progress. So, mechanization of progress refers to the discovery of new and improved methods of producing goods. Changes in mechanization lead to an increase in labor, capital, and other factors of production. So, phases of technological process. There are 3 phases of technological progress. First is the invention, innovation, and diffusion. Let's talk about first the invention. When we say invention, the act of creating new technology. So, parang nag-invent ka lang naman na kung ng mga bagong technology na magagamit in the future. Second is the innovation. May be used synonymously with invention or may refer to discovering a new way in which to use or apply existing technology. So yung innovation, parang dito ginagamit mo na yung existing technology to discover new technology. Parang nag-innovate ka na to produce a quality technology. So in here, meron siyang mga key terms dito. Yung relative advantage means the product or behavior is perceived as being better than the alternatives with the person adopting the innovation. Compatibility refers to how the innovations align with adopters' lifestyle. Complexity, how easy or difficult innovation is to understand. Trialability, the process of testing the innovation. Observability, involves seeing the product or behavior in action. So, parang this term is very important when we are innovating some products. Kasi, para makita talaga natin if the innovation of product is works and it's better na sa existing technology. So third is the diffusion. Diffusion refers to the spread of technology throughout society or industry. Yung diffusion, ito yung sinasabi na yung pagkalat ng technology na kung saan talaga mabilis kumalat yung mga teknolohiyang ginagamit ng mga tao ngayon sa buong mundo. So I have here question, why mechanism of progress is important? So it is very important na yung mechanism of progress kasi nga it increase our productivity and efficiency in producing goods. At hindi na tayo minsan napapagod and madali na yung pag-produce ng goods na minsan kailangan talagang madala sa merkado. At isa pa rito yung it's important in economic growth. So pag marami yung ang produktong na produce mo na mabenta sa merkado, syempre tataas talaga yung sales and that can lead to overall economic growth. So yun lang yung mga important ng mechanism of progress. So let's talk about the globalizing trade. So globalization, the word used to describe the growing interdependence of the world's economies, cultures, and population brought by cross-border trade and goods and services, technology, and now let's talk about globalizing trade. First is the globalization. The word used to describe the growing interdependence of the world's economies, cultures, and population brought about by cross-border trade in goods and services, technology and flows of investment, peoples, and information. So the globalization is a growing interdependence of world's economies. So there is no barriers, there is no hinders that can connect to the peoples across the world. They are all brought by the globalization. Trade. Trade is the buying and selling of goods and services between different countries around the world. Goods that are brought into a country are called imports, and those that are sold to another country are called export. So let's talk about global trade. When we say global trade, it is the exchange of goods or services between countries is made up the total imports and exports of each participating nation. It is governed by supply and demand with occasional government intervention and relies on that supply and demand to determine the price of each product or service sold. Some nations choose to specialize in various products and services and have a comparative advantage over other nations. Countries with an absolute advantage on a good or services are the best at producing that good or service that are most likely to export this to other nations. That is how the global economy is formed, trade between nations. let's talk about free trade. When we say free trade, is a pact between two or more nations to reduce barrier to imports and export among them. Under a free trade, policies and goods and services can be bought and sold across international borders with little or no government tariffs, quotas, subsidies, or prohibition to inhibit their exchange. So sinasabi sa free trade that there is no restriction or limitation sa pag-trade ng isang product. So they have freedom para lang maka-exchange ng isang product sa isang product. So walang malaya silang makipagpalitan sa ibang bansa. Like walang pag-alinlangan at walang iisiping mga taripa na kailangan pagbayaran sa pag-exchange ng isang produkto sa isang produkto, kasi nga that's the concept of free trade. Like free talaga, free ang pag-exchange ng product. Now let's talk about protectionism. When we say protectionism is the practice of following protectionist trade policy. A protectionist trade policy allows the government of a country to promote domestic producer and thereby boost the domestic productions of goods and services by imposing tariffs or otherwise limiting foreign goods and service in the marketplace. So pag sinabi natin domestic product is yung product na ginagawa mismo sa specific na lugar. So yung mga protectionists, ang role nila is to promote their own product. So to maintain the protectionism of the product, may mga tools na ginagamit. Ito yung tariffs, subsidy, quotas, and embargo. Yung tariffs, ito yung ini-impose ng government para maging expensive yung produkto. So parang dahil dun, nalilimitahan na yung mga foreign goods to buy or to get the product from other country kasi nga mahal yung produkto because of the tariffs. And yung subsidies naman, ito yung government payment na binabayad nila sa isang produkto. So dahil dun parang hindi na dapat ipag-trade or parang hindi na bawal nang ipag-trade sa isang lugar kasi nga may payment na siya ng government na binigay or na pinataw or binigay. And third is the quotas. Yung quotas, ito yung limit yung pag-trade ng isang bagay sa other country. Parang ito lang yung pwede mong i-trade at ito lang yung hindi pwedeng i-trade. So parang ganun yung dapat quotas, may limitation yung pag-trade mo ng isang good sa isang bagay. And yung embargoes naman, ito yung completely ban na bawal kang makipag-trade sa isang good sa isang country. So yun yung mga tools para ma-accomplish yung protectionism, yung tariffs, subsidies, quotas, and embargoes. So the top trade sectors in global trade market have remained relatively consistent in spite of significant market fluctuation in the past decade. Entities wishing to trade globally might consider some of these sectors. According to Shah World Factbook, these are the top 10 most traded commodities since 2017. First is electrical machinery, including computers with 14.8%. Second is mineral fuels with 14.4%. Third is nuclear reactors with 8.9%. Vehicles with 8.9%. Scientific and precision instrument 3.5%. Plastics 3.4%. Iron and steel 2.7%, organic chemicals 2.6%, pharmaceutical products 2.6%, and precious stone 1.9%. And other significant trades area include service, labor, and intellectual property. So the US currently spend nearly $2.361 trillion US dollar annually on imports, and the top three commodities include industrial supplies with 32.9%, consumer goods 31.8%, and capital goods with 30.4%. Currently, the US is operating at a trade deficit. It earns approximately 1.553 trillion US dollar annually, and its top three exported products include capital goods 49%, industrial supplies 26.8%, and consumer goods with 15%.
So, let's proceed to the disadvantage and the disadvantages of a global trade. So, let's proceed to the advantages of the global trade. The advantages of global trades are the building blocks for international growth. Once a business is able to successfully expand to one foreign market, they increase their likelihood of spreading to others. They can they can increase brand awareness in the region, spark interest in the neighboring countries, and pull the brand into those countries as well. So, with the use of the global trade, napapalawak natin ang iba't ibang businesses sa mga foreign countries. So, isa din yon sa advantages, which is nakakabuo tayo ng international growth through the global trades. So, next is the increase in competition. The more sellers in the marketplace, the cheaper and better products are for the consumer. The next is the improves financial performance. Countries offer significant market potential for many products. Expanding globally allow more people to see, evaluate, and purchase products. More exposure often correlates with higher sales. Nai-improve din ng global trade ang financial performance ng isang countries. Kasi mas madaming pera yung dumadaloy sa countries within the global trades. And the next is distributes a brand or a business risk. Once again, the more people are exposed to a product or service, the better chance to make a sale. Selling to foreign countries increases sales potential and relieves pressure to sell domestically. Next is political risk. Dito na tayo sa disadvantages na global trades. First is the political risk sa disadvantage. Operating in foreign countries means operating with foreign governments, laws, and customs, as well as potential political unrest. Shifting political climates can often pose disruption to global trade. Dito, kagaya sa Pilipinas, is madaming nasasabat na mga smuggled na products, kasi nga yung ibang foreign countries is may mga batas sila sa mga pag-smuggle ng iba't ibang products ng products sa pag transport sa ibang countries, kasi sa kada bansa ay may kanya-kanya silang laws na pinapatupad. And the next sa disadvantages is the cultural complications. This can take many forms and can be difficult to anticipate. Some of the major graph come from language barriers, physical mannerism, or religious offenses. These mistakes can costly if enacted improperly. So, nagkakaroon din ng cultural implication sa global trade, kasi iba't ibang lahi at iba't ibang bansa ang nagkakaroon ng interact, which is nagkakaroon din ng language barriers. Hindi sila nagkakaintindihan kasi sa Asia is konti lang talaga yung nag-aaral ng English sa bansa. So the next is increases the risk of IP theft. Some individuals do not act ethically and will not adhere the US patent law or follow intellectual property. protection. So, ang dami din na bansa na hindi sumusunod sa mga patakaran or hindi sila ethical gumawa ng hakbang. They are trading globally often exposes companies to copyright, trademark, infringement, and it is more difficult to combat on foreign soil where laws and custom different from the US. Yun nga yung sinabi ko kanina na kada bansa ay may iba't ibang laws na pinapatupad tungkol sa pag-aangkat ng iba't ibang produkto. So, let's proceed to the next disadvantages is the exchange rate risk. Global currency is constantly shifting value, so product and services values also shift. So, naapektuhan din ng exchange rate ang presyo ng mga produkto na inaangkat natin. Kasi kapag nagbabago ang value ng currency o palitan ng pera sa kada bansa is magbabago din yung presyo ng produktong inangkat mula sa ibang bansa. So, global trade. Ano nga ba ang global trade? The global trade has been the backbone of the global economy and countries to grow today. There are more advantages and disadvantages associated with it, and any more strategies on what is the best way to do it. So, madaming disadvantage and disadvantages, and meron din namang mga paraan para mas maganda yung pag-trade natin globally. Kasi ang global trade, ito yung nagsisilbing haligi natin ngayon kung bakit nagkakaroon tayo ng economic growth sa kada bansa. Malaki ang epekto ng global trade sa ating economic growth. So, let's proceed to the shift from industrial age to computer revolution. From machines to microchips, the technological transformation. The world has undergone massive change in how people live and work. One of the most important changes was the shift from industrial age to computer revolution, also called the digital age or information age. This transformation changed industries, economies, communication, and even education. So, ito is kumpara dati na nasa industrial age, more on traditional, kumbaga wala pang technology na ginagamit, more on physical lang or talagang sa education halimbawa is dati walang ginagawang mga true online or technology na ginagamit, which is dati wala pang computer, gumagamit ng mga nature materials ang dating education dati. Ngayon is kumpara ngayon meron na tayong PPT, meron na tayong mga tools, mga online tools, meron na tayong TV, computer, and etc. So the industrial age from 1760s to early 1900s began with the Industrial Revolution in Europe, especially in Britain, focused on mechanized production powered by steam engines and later electricity. Major industries: textile, steel, coal, railways, and manufacturing. Urbanization increased as people moved to cities for factory jobs, and education emphasized discipline, repetition, and skill for factory works. So dati ang ginagamit nung Industrial Revolution pa lamang ay ang coal na ginagamit dati, kung saan ito yung ginagamit para umandar ang isang engine. Ngayon meron na tayong mechanized, kumbaga gasolina na, at ngayon meron na tayong electricity. So the computer revolution, late 20th century to present, started around 1970s with the invention of microprocessors and personal computers. So dito nagkaroon na tayo ng computers focused on information technology, software, the internet, and digital communication. Industries became automated and data became a valuable resources. So ngayon, kung dati more on libro lang tayo sa education, sa concept ng education, more on libro lang tayo dati, ngayon ginagamit na natin yung internet to search more information. So next is the key differences between the two ages. So sa power source, sa dati nga sabi ko kanina, nung industrial age, ang power source dati ay steam, coal, at electricity. Sa computer revolution naman, meron na tayong high-tech or digital tech, software, and internet. Type of labor, dati, yun nga, meron manual labor lang dati sa factories. Ngayon, meron na tayong tech-based, remote knowledge work. And meron na tayong ngayon sa present, meron na tayong robotics. So, sa communication naman, ang industrial age dati is letters, newspapers, and telegraph. Sa computer revolution naman, meron na tayo ngayon sa present, meron na tayo ngayong email, social media, real-time apps, katulad ng Messenger, Facebook, and others. So, sa education focus, dati sa industrial age, meron tayong obedience, repetition, and basics. Sa computer naman, meron tayong creativity, problem solving, and tech. And kumpara sa education is nag-revolution na din, kumbaga nagbago na din. Meron na ding shift sa education. Sa economic naman, sa industrial age, manufacturing and physical goods. Sa computer revolution, meron na tayong information, services, and innovation. So next is impact on the society. Ano nga ba yung impact ng industrial revolution sa pag-shift sa computer age? So ang impact nito sa society is jobs many factory jobs disappear. So madaming nawala ng trabaho kasi nga dati manual labor, ngayon is meron na tayong robotics and meron tayong software na ginagamit. So, but new jobs in tech and services emerge. So, kahit na nag-shift ang labor, kung dati manual, ngayon meron na tayong computerized software and others. And tao pa din naman yung gumagana ay nagiging mitsa kung bakit gumagana ang computer age, ang mga software, kaya nagkakaroon ng bagong trabaho. Sa lifestyle, people became more connected through digital tools and social media. So ngayon is sa communication, madali na sa computer age kumpara sa industrial age. Kumbaga dati letter lang, ngayon isang chat mo lang, nandoon na yung message na gusto mong ipadala sa receiver. Sa economy naman, economy in countries with strong tech sectors grew faster. So ngayon, kapag mas high-tech ang bansa, mas madaling nag-grow kasi mas nagiging advanced sila kumpara sa ibang countries. Education classroom now use digital tools like tablets, projectors, and online platforms. Ito yung sinasabi ko kanina na maging sa education is my shift. Kung dati basic lang, repetition, ngayon meron na tayong nagagamit na tools, na online tools para sa problem solving. Meron na tayong kahit hindi na tayo mag face to face, may nagagamit tayong online platforms. So ayun, the shift from the industrial age to computer revolution has transformed the world into fast-paced, interconnected, and technology-driven society. Understanding this change help us prepare for the future where digital skills and adaptability are more important than ever. So kahit na nag-shift ang industrial age sa computer revolution, natulungan naman nito ang economy at ang bansa na ang society na mag-grow. Mas madali nang mag-grow ang society dahil sa computer revolution. Kaya kailangan natin, napaka-importante ang adaptability sa lahat. So yun, next presenter is doon na nagtatapos yung part ko, and sa next presenter will be present the routes to globalization.
The next topic is all about the routes to globalization, the challenges, the struggle, the response, and the call for international cooperation. Challenges in globalization. Globalization presents challenges for developed countries as well. It has been blamed for high unemployment in Europe and the stagnation of real wage in United States, but increased competition from imports is at most secondary explanation for the decline real wage of less skilled American workers. So sa bansang tulad ng United States at mga bansa sa Europa, maraming kumpanya ang lumilipat ng operasyon sa ibang bansa kung saan mas mababa ang pasahod. So dahil dito, maraming manggagawa sa sariling bansa ang nawawala ng trabaho. Kaya sinasabi ng ilan na ang globalisasyon ang dahilan kung bakit bumababa ang sahod ng mga low-skilled workers sa Amerika. Dahil mas pinipili ng kumpanya ang mas murang labor sa ibang bansa. The next one is international recruiting. It is not surprising that 30% of US tech leaders cited international recruiting as their most common challenges. Recruiting across borders creates unknown HR teams. So, kapag ang mga kumpanya ay kumukuha ng empleyado mula sa ibang bansa, maraming komplikasyon ang lumalabas. Halimbawa, hindi nila kilala ang HR or human resource system sa ibang lugar, kaya nagkakaroon ng kalituhan sa proseso ng pag-hire, na kung saan ito yung malaking problema lalo na sa industriya ng teknolohiya sa US. The next one is employer challenges. A lack of local talent struggles to find qualified talent in their area. Letter B is ghosting, either don't show up for interviews or don't respond to their communication. Letter C is subpar jobs ads, challenges with writing strong ads that get respond. The next one is managing employee immigration. 28% of US and UK tech leader agreed it was one of their top challenges. Immigration laws changes often, and in some countries it is difficult to secure visas for employees that are foreign nationals. So, ang mga kumpanya ay nahihirapan sa pagkuha ng mga dayuhang manggagawa dahil pabago-bago ang batas ng immigration sa ibang bansa, na kung saan mahirap kumuha ng working visa para sa mga foreign workers. The next one is incurring tariffs and export fee. For companies looking to sell products abroad, getting those items overseas can be experienced depending on the market. So, kapag nagbebenta ng produkto sa ibang bansa, may karagdagang gastos tulad ng buwis at bayarin sa pag-export depende sa patakaran ng bansa. Isang halimbawa dito ay isang kumpanyang Pilipino ang gustong magbenta ng dried mango sa Europe, pero kailangang magbayad ng mataas na buwis sa pagpasok ng produkto, na kung saan ito yung dahilan kung bakit sila nalulugi. The next one, challenges in globalization, is payroll and compliance challenges. Managing payroll and maintaining compliance is another common global expansion obstacle with changing in employment and tax laws. So, ipinapahiwatig nito na iba't iba ang batas sa sahod at buwis sa bawat bansa, na kung saan kailangang sumunod ang kumpanya sa mga patakarang ito. Kaya nagiging komplikado ang operasyon. Halimbawa nito ay isang international company sa Singapore ang nagkamali sa pagbayad ng buwis para sa kanilang empleyado sa Thailand, na kung saan ito yung nagkakaroon sila ng multa mula sa gobyerno. The next one is loss of cultural identity. While globalization has made foreign countries easier to access, it has also begun to meld unique societies together. The success of certain cultures throughout the world caused other countries to emulate them, but when culture begin to lose their distinctive features, we lose of global diversity. So dahil sa globalisasyon, maraming bansa ang ginagaya ang kultura ng ibang bansa, na kung saan nawawala na ang mga natatanging tradisyon at identidad ng isang bansa. Halimbawa dito sa Pilipinas, maraming kabataan ang mas pamilyar sa Western pop culture kaysa sa sariling tradisyon gaya ng kundiman o sayaw na tinikling. The next one is foreign workers exploitation. Lower caste do benefit many consumers, but it also creates tough competition that leads some companies to search for cheap labor sources. So dahil sa paghahanap ng mas murang paggawa, may mga kumpanyang nagsasamantala sa dayuhang manggagawa na binabayaran ng mababa at pinagtatrabaho ng sobra. Halimbawa ay mga garment factory sa Bangladesh na nagbibigay lang ng kaunting sahod sa mga manggagawa at kulang sa benepisyo pero malaki ang kinikita ng kumpanya. The next one is global expansion difficulties. If companies take the traditional route of setting up entity, they need substantial upfront capital, sometimes up to 20,000 and lost of 200,000 annually to maintain the business. So, ang pagtatayo ng negosyo sa ibang bansa ay nangangailangan ng malaking puhunan at maraming legal na proseso kaya mahirap para sa mga maliit na negosyo. The next one is immigration challenges and local job loss. The globalization allows companies to find lower cost ways to produce their products. It also increases global competition, which drives prices down and creates a larger variety of choices for consumers. So, kapag mas pinipili ng mga kumpanya ang mas murang foreign workers, nawawala ng oportunidad ang lokal na manggagawa. Dahil dito, tumataas din ang kompetisyon sa sahod. Halimbawa, sa isang bansa, mas pinipili ng mga fast food chains ang pag-hire ng foreign workers na tumatanggap ng mas mababang sahod, kaya maraming lokal ang nawala ng trabaho. The next one is response to challenges in globalization. Ruling elite in consultation with all stakeholders should formulate vision for the country where it would be short to long period in the rapidly globalizing world. Thus, it could be active partner without it. The country could be a silent spectator, spectator or at worst a passive recipient. However, articulating vision without formulating following attendant policies and strategies to achieve it is exercise and quality. Ipinapaliwanag nito na walang direksyon ang bansa kung walang malinaw na plano kung paano gaganda ang ating bansa o aasenso. The next one response to challenges in globalization is policy framework needed to fully exploit the opportunities of globalization. First, formulate business-friendly national economic policies and which encourage creation of exportable surplus of high-quality goods and services. Government rules should be confined to legislation, policy, development regulation, while the private sector should take the lead in investment and value chain development on its own. So, ang mga patakaran ng bansa ay dapat ding sumusuporta sa pag-unlad na dulot ng globalisasyon. Halimbawa nito ay kung mataas na buwis sa pag-aangkat ng mga kagamitan para sa pagmamanufaktura, magiging mahirap para sa mga negosyo na makipagkompetensya sa ibang bansa. So So kailangan ng mga pulisiya na magpapadali sa negosyo at mag-aakit ng mga dayuhang mamumuhunan. The next one is create exportable surplus. So there is a lot of capacity in every industrial unit which cannot be utilized for one reason or other: costly imported raw material, lack of finance, inadequate BMR, or shortage of expertise, and etc. Carry out comprehensive analysis of export-oriented industrial units and find solution for optimum utilization of their excess capacity. So, ang kahulugan ng mga produkto na maaaring i-export ay isang malaking hadlang sa pag-unlad ng ekonomiya. So, kailangan ng pagsasaliksik at pag-unlad upang mapabuti ang kalidad ng mga produkto at mapakinabangan ang mga umiiral na kakayahan ng mga industriya. So the next one is accelerating productivity growth. So economic measure of output per unit of input, productivity gains are vital to economy as they allow us to accomplish more with less. So ang pagpapabuti ng produktibidad ay mahalaga upang maging competition sa pandaigdigang merkado. Ito ay nangangailangan ng pagsasanay, paggamit ng teknolohiya at pagpapahusay ng mga proseso ng paggawa. The next one is improving competitiveness. World Bank ranks countries in its ease of doing business index for guidance of potential global investors as well as states to take corrective measures. Improve this ranking by improving countries' physical infrastructure, removing administrative delays, and enforcing strict accountability regime. So ang paggamit ng ease of doing business index ng World Bank bilang gabay ay nagpapakita ng pagsisikap na gawing mas madali o kaaya-aya ang pagnenegosyo sa bansa. So the next one is meeting social environmental standard. So developed countries are progressive, imposing stringent social conditionality and environmental compliance rules. Such meeting these requirements not only from specific and technical perspective but also from regulatory, social, environmental performance, and customer-specific standpoints is essential in globalizing world. So, ang pagsunod ng mga mahigpit na pamantayan sa kapaligiran at sa lipunan ay mahalaga upang maging kaaya-aya sa mga dayuhan o mamumuhunan na may mataas na pamantayan sa corporate social responsibility. Halimbawa ay ang pagpapatupad ng batas laban sa polusyon at paggawa ng mga sustainable practices ay nagpapakita ng pagpapahalaga sa kalikasan at kapakanan ng mga mamamayan. So the next one is meeting quality standards. So promote culture of quality stage of value chain through awareness campaign, appropriate legislations, and institutional mechanism. So ang pagpapaunlad ng kultura ng kalidad sa lahat ng antas ng produksyon, ito ay susi sa paggawa ng mga produktong may mataas na kalidad na kayang makipagkompetensya sa pandaigdigang merkado. So, halimbawa dito ay yung pagpapatupad ng mga programa sa pagsanay sa mga manggagawa at paggamit ng mga makabagong teknolohiya sa produksyon. The next one is research development. So, research and development is a crucial as new technology, material, techniques as a result in new products and their cost-effective production essential for competing in rapidly globalizing world. For the state, it has to be proactive as the private sector, which is the ultimate beneficiary, is not willing to invest in this risky field. So, ang pamumuhunan sa pananaliksik at pagpapaunlad ay mahalaga upang makagawa ng mga makabagong produkto at teknolohiya na magbibigay ng kompetisyon sa pandaigdigang merkado. Halimbawa nito ay yung pagsuporta sa mga lokal na inventor at pag-aangkat ng mga bagong teknolohiya. The next one is attracting foreign investment. Attracting foreign investment is a direct foreign investment accelerates growth rate and promotes export by bringing in capital. Technology and management practices attract foreign investor from attract foreign investor for export-oriented joint ventures inside countries and also establish joint ventures abroad by co-opting local industrialize. So ang pag-akit ng dayuhang pamumuhunan ay nagpapasigla sa ekonomiya sa pamamagitan ng pagdadala ng kapital, teknolohiya at mga kasanayan. Halimbawa, ang pag-aalok ng mga insensitibo sa mga dayuhang mamumuhunan. So the next one is reasserting local identity. So some cultures may attempt to resist globalization by reasserting local identity. So this may involve deliberately highlighting and celebrating local folklore and languages. For example, the French government have banned word such as email, takeaway, and now hashtag and impose a culture tax on cinemas showing non-French films. So, reasserting local identity is ito yung pagpapanatili ng pambansang pagkakakilanlan ay mahalaga upang maiwasan ang pagkawala ng kultura at tradisyon sa gitna ng globalisasyon. Halimbawa nito ay yung pagsuporta sa mga lokal na sining, kultura at wika. The next one is violent resistance. So, violent resistance is a final response is the emergence of violent resistance mostly in the developing world, as some peoples interpret globalization as assault on their identity. So, violent resistance ito ay isang reaksyon ng ibang tao na nakikita ang globalisasyon bilang banta sa kanilang kultura o pagkakakilanlan. So, halimbawa dito ay sa ilang bansa sa gitnang silangan, may mga grupong tumututol sa mga dayuhang impluwensya na pumasok sa kanilang ekonomiya at kultura na dahil dito, ito yung nagiging dahilan o nagre-resulta minsan sa mga marahas na pagkilos protesta. So the next one is struggles to economic globalization. Struggles economic globalization, increase in social instabilities. Economic globalization is increasing GDP in all participating countries. At the same time, it is also intensifying the shortage in all national economies. Negative income effects for certain people and regions in the countries involved leads to growing social tensions that have a negative impact on economic development. Social tensions can also lead to increasing. So, struggle to economic globalization dahil bagamat tumataas ang GDP ng mga bansang kasali sa globalisasyon ay hindi lahat ay nakikinabang. So, may mga lugar din at sektor na nakakaranas ng kakulangan sa kita at pagkawala ng trabaho at lumalalang tensyong panlipunang nakakaapekto sa pag-unlad. The next one is technological disruptions. Present technological progress primarily means an increasing capital intensity for production. High developed economies, the demand for labor is therefore declining. Low-skilled workers in particular can then be affected by unemployment and loss of income. Competing lower-cost markets for job, workers may be unable to defend against the threat for corporations that offer the alternative between lower pay or losing jobs. So, sa mga maunlad na bansa, dumarami ang mga trabaho na pinapalitan ng makina o automation. So, nahihirapan ang mga low-skilled na manggagawa na makahanap ng bagong trabaho. So, dahil dito, napipilitan silang tumanggap ng mababang pasahod. The next one is international cooperation. The interaction of persons or group of persons representing various nations in the pursuit of a common goal. A governmental company or individual innovator open ups on new horizons for innovation creation at global level and subsequently at the national level and vice versa. So, dahil sa mga hamon ng globalisasyon ay kailangang magtulungan ang bansa upang makamit ang mga layuning pangkaunlaran. Ang kooperasyon sa pagitan ng mga tao, gobyerno at kumpanya ay makakatulong sa paglikha ng mga makabagong solusyon para sa ikabubuti ng lahat. So the next one is benefits of international cooperation. Cooperation among countries can be an effective tool to strengthen, share, and accelerate development within countries and across regions. So the mission and issues of international cooperation are environment, poverty, war, disease, extinct animal, so on and so forth. So, sa pamamagitan ng pagtutulungan ng bansa, mas napapabilis ang pag-unlad at mas napapalakas ang mga solusyon sa mga isyung hindi kayang lutasin ng isang bansa lamang. So, the next one is a call for international cooperation, institution that govern international relations. The first is United Nations. Ito yung nangungunang organisasyon sa mundo naglalayong mapanatili ang kapayapaan, karapatang pantao at pag-unlad. So the next one is the Department of Foreign Affairs or DFA. Ito yung mga ahensya ng pamahalaan sa Pilipinas na nakikipag-ugnayan sa ibang bansa at lumalawak sa mga pandaigdigang kasunduan. So the next one is World Trade Organization or WTO. Ito naman yung nagpapatupad ng mga patakaran sa patas na kalakalan ng mga bansa. So the next one is Asia Pacific Economic Cooperation or APEC. Ito naman yung samahan ng mga bansa sa rehiyon ng Asia Pacific na nagtutulungan para sa kaunlarang pang-ekonomiya. So the next one is Association of Southeast Asian Nation or ASEAN. Ito naman yung para sa kapayapaan, seguridad at progreso sa rehiyon.